We're so excited to be here today. For those of you who have been on the call yesterday talking about profitability, I said that we have a surprise guest speaker today, and I'm so excited that Lynn Tortorigi, MAPS coach Lynn Tortorigi, will be joining me today. And I'm going to make the introductions in a minute and tell you why do I think that she is an expert in this specific topic. And guys, with your permission, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we will start. Okay, we will start with a few disclaimers with your permission. The TCPA Act, right? I just want to make sure that we all are following the TCPA regulations around auto dialers, artificial voice, and pre-recorded messages, state telemarketing laws, caller disclosures, calling time restrictions, and document consent. And on the for the do not call list, the do's and the don'ts. Check the do not call list before you make any calls or texts. Honor the do not call requests. Make sure you have a written policy. Subscribe to the National Do Not Call Registry and maintain an internal do not call list. We all know that these regulations need to be followed to avoid any legal implications. This is serious. So take the time, read through it, and make sure that you follow these rules and regulations. So, who am I? My name is Loredana Ghete, and I get the opportunity to wake up every single morning and serve around 2,000 agents and several leaders within Keller Williams through coaching and consulting. I've joined Keller Williams North Atlanta back in 2015 and helped together with an amazingly successful team grow the market center from 150 agents to 700 agents. This market center in North Atlanta has become number one in profitability in 2023 in the world. In 2024, it was number one in US, and in 2025, I dare to say it will be number one in the world again. I have the opportunity to be the founder and co-owner of Legacy Leverage, which is a virtual assistant company serving, actually, I need to update that, all 8 market centers with close to 3,000 agents. And I get the opportunity to be a qualifying broker and co-owner of a holding company. Now, why is that important? That's important because it brings so much perspective from different fields, right? And let me tell you a little bit about our special guest, Lynn Tortorigi. So Lynn has been an agent. Lynn, are you there?
I am here.
Lynn has played so many different roles in the real estate industry. And Lynn, I want you to just update what I'm going to share. But Lynn has started as an agent back in
Oh, goodness. 88.
1988. She's owned a lending company. She's a business owner, a coach. She has helped led with me Keller Williams North Atlanta, and from that 170 agents to 700 every single day. And what I can tell you, she's still an active MCA for North Atlanta, making sure that that profitability keeps growing. And she's a MAPS coach serving OPs, TLs, and MCAs. Lynn, what did I miss?
I think you covered me pretty well, except for my 20-year experience of develop neighborhoods. I think you missed that, but that's about it.
Oh, I
I have
forgot
four
about that
grandchildren.
one.
I have 2 kids and 4 grandchildren that I'm super proud of.
And they are your big why. I mean,
They are.
you're just inspiring. You're inspiring, Lynn, and we're so grateful to have you here today and to co-lead this call with you. So
Thank
let's
you.
talk a little bit about why leading through culture is important, right? Because sometimes we think culture is just it can be moments, and yet culture starts with community engagement, retention, and profitability. And a market center with strong community is unstoppable. And we've seen this, Lynn, right? We've seen this. The first thing
Absolutely.
we had to work on was making sure that we have a strong community and where people feel that they belong. And they feel they belong when they produce more. And when they produce more, they stay longer, right? And they stay longer when they collaborate deeper. And when you create that stickiness, they show up as leaders, right? So let's start with this a little bit because this is, I'm starting to, people think in seasons, right? And what's interesting, the COVID era, right? We've learned so much in that time. And before COVID, engagement meant participation in classes, right? That's how we measured engagement. Then after COVID, we realized that engagement has transformed, right? It is participation in classes. However, during COVID, we had to learn how to use the digital world, right? And what does that look like? What does that engagement mean in a digital world, right? And it's not necessarily in the moment, right? Engagement means, yes, physical participation in classes. It means the people who are currently here. It means the people who are going to watch the recordings. It means the people who are really engaged in whatever value proposition you have to offer, right? What would you add here, Lynn, in redefining engagement? What comes to mind?
Well, it's also has a lot to do with getting people back in the market center. When we went through COVID, about a year after, we were still struggling to have that engagement, to have that interaction in the market center. So we started doing, and I know you remember this. We started being very intentional with our events and what we were doing and what we were offering. And it took us a little bit, it did, but after maybe 5 or 6 months, we started seeing that engagement. And it was just the team had to really kind of redefine it for ourselves as well. What did
Mhm.
engagement look like with us to the agents and with the agents? And so after the team got together, we really figured out what that looked like. It just started, the people just started, the agents started coming back into the market center.
100%, 100%. And I think we're gonna cover a lot more in the next slides, but I think that's a challenge that we all have for in-person events, right? But the
Right.
opportunity today's agents want is this, right? They are looking for connection. They're looking for purpose. They're looking for leadership involvement. They're looking for shared success. They're looking for a place where they matter, and they're looking for a community that elevates them professionally, personally, and financially, right? So, by the way, we pulled these needs or things that agents are looking for from all the years of meeting with one-on-one agents to attract, and also all the years of collecting feedback from them, right? So let's talk a little bit about what does culture need to answer to, right? So culture needs, agents are always asking themselves, do I feel seen? Do I matter here? Do I have a voice? And do I contribute to the vision? This is not our model, right? Keller Williams model is designed to answer all those four questions. But sometimes it's very hard in the market center to keep the focus on all four, right? It is hard. So I just want to cover a little bit the do I feel seen? And the most basic, the simplest and most impactful thing that works is knowing every single person's name. And when you just say hello, it makes a huge difference to say, "Hey Lynn, how is your day
Absolutely.
going?" Instead of saying, "Hey, how are you?" So based on
Yes,
just that one, and you and I, Lynn, we've experienced this so much, and as we've grown, obviously this becomes a challenge, right? To remember
absolutely.
everybody's name, everybody's right, their personal goals. There, you have to stay in relationships with the people that you serve. So what have you seen that to work to make sure that this one simple habit stays active when you grow?
Well, one of the first things that comes to mind, Loredana, is that you and I implemented years ago the what everybody calls it the power walk, but ours is more intentional of making sure that each team member has some form of conversation with somebody that's coming on board. And not only that's so important that stays as a system, because it is a system, by the way. Um, and also, we have in the past couple of years, every single week now that we take the people that we've hired that week and we send out a notice, an email within the team and with their pictures, with their names, where they're from, if they're new agents, so forth. And that way we have these people. And so when we see them walk through, I have a little folder as well on my desktop that I click in. And it's so easy. It's, oh, hey, Jane, how are you? So good to see you. And you have a little bit of, just a little bit of information about that person. You're not going to have their life story, but you're going to have something that clicks in your brain of who that person is. And that has really helped us as a team to be able to remember people's name because 700 agents to a staff of 8, we're outnumbered.
A hundred
So
percent.
we have to be intentional with it.
Yes, and I remember us taking the whole team. We went to a leadership event, and the guest speaker there was the um, CEO of Ritz-Carlton.
Mm-hmm.
And what was interesting is we all know Ritz-Carlton to be a high-end company in services, right? And what they said was, what would you, if you were to name one thing that you do that regardless how big you get, you're never gonna move away from that. The one thing that brings the most results. And what he said, I remember, is simply making sure that everybody on the team knows the guest's name.
Yeah.
And that stuck with us, right? And I think that that's so important. So let's talk a little bit about the three pillars of community, right? To build a community that sticks. And it's about connection. We just talked about it. People feel known. We can get deeper into it. The point is if we do the things that we said we're going to do, meeting with the agents, right? The top 20% are assigned to the team leader. Then the next 30%, director of growth, MCA, assistant MCA, everybody on the team can provide value, right? And when you start knowing what moves them, when you start learning about them, when you start learning about their personal life, they feel known. Then collaboration, right? That's the second pillar where people feel valuable. Are we providing the agents a stage, right? And to allow them, instead of just talking, to allow them to bring value and bring their experience, right? And then the third pillar would be the contribution, where actually people feel responsible to take ownership of different things in the market center, right? That is the contribution. So let's talk about shared leadership, right? Which is your ultimate lever. And one of the things that we saw that works, right? Because we're gonna model what works. These are systems that were implemented. We failed a lot, but these were systems that we implemented, and it took us years of failure to realize what works as a foundation. And then obviously what I've seen into expanding systems in different market centers as a maps coach and also as a general manager is, this is the foundation and everybody adds the creativity. It doesn't mean that if you create a market center with strong systems and models, you have to lose your identity. As a matter of fact, it's what allows you to add creativity to it. right? So when you use the shared leadership concept, meaning your ALC and your top 20% are actually co-leading with you. We're going to talk about what that looks like, but then culture becomes peer-led, accountability increases, ownership rises, right? So instead of having people that coming to you and say, this is not working, this is not working, right? Have you ever asked the question, what are you going to do about it? Right? The vision becomes shared and engagement becomes natural. There was a rule on our ALC, Lynn. I know you remember, and there's still that rule still exists. If you notice a problem or a challenge in the market center, you're not allowed to present it until you come up with a solution as well.
Absolutely. And it's still in place.
And what's awesome, what do you think Lynn, tell us what's awesome about it. Hey, we're here to solve problems. You are part of the solution. Wherever problem you bring to the table to be discussed, you're going to have to bring your solution too, and then everybody else will contribute. So how did that change the way, the co-leadership?
Well, it gave our ALC ownership. They felt like they are part of the leadership team. And so when you can flip that mindset to, hey, you are part of this, you are actually part of our leadership, and the agents trust the ALC. Of course, they trust their team, their leadership team, but they are in the weeds with those agents, and so they're going to trust more so than bringing that issue to a staff member. And they're going to take it to your ALC members that have been on the ALC for a while as well. So they trust them, and they bring that problem to them. And when we let our ALC know you are part of this leadership, it gives them ownership, and it just makes it so much easier for us to solve problems in the market center as a whole.
100%. I'm going to take one specific example. So one
Sure.
of the things that I hear and I know that a lot of market centers are dealing with is we're not telling our story enough. And I'm going to do air quotes, right? We're not telling our story enough. Everybody, I think, is in agreement with that, right? And one of the specific things that I've seen implemented, Lynn, is one of the ALC members is actually, I would call it an influencer because he has a lot of people following him,
Absolutely. Hmm.
right? And actually, TikTok and Instagram reached out to pay him for things, whatever. So he's actually passionate about creating stories and creating influence online. So specifically, instead of coming to the ALC meeting and say, we're not sharing our story enough, which he did, he said, I'm going to take ownership of that committee and I'm going to be the chair. And him, together with another
Yes.
ALC member, his name is Fernando Chavarria, together with another ALC member and our amazing director of agent experience, um, Haley,
Haley.
all
Hmm.
three are specifically working on that. And our at our holiday party, they were actually interviewing people. I love that.
It was
I
great.
my voice was not great, by the way, back then, and I said I don't know if you can post it because I'm whispering. But the point is, specifically, they took action, and now they have a social media plan to share the story of that specific market center, and it's done by who? Two ALC members supported by a leadership member.
Yes.
Tell me about that. How did that create excitement?
Oh, wow. So it created huge excitement. We created a new committee on the ALC, social media, and it's needed. Um, it's a huge buzz, and we have also added more ALC members have chosen to jump into that committee as well. So just by Fernando coming to the meeting with a problem that he knew we had and a solution, got everybody involved and excited, including the leadership team. We do not tell our story enough. The majority of the market centers that you and I coach and that are out there, they don't. And this is just a platform. We have it right in front of us. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have people that use this every day to build their businesses. So it's just a wonderful way to bring attention and recognition and value.
100%. I love that. So the point is this, right? Agents don't follow systems.
Nope.
Agents do follow people, and that's the reality. However, I don't know if agents follow people or agents follow the standards that people represent, right? So
Mhm.
your role as a leader in markets, in a market center, guys, is you're the architect of belonging. You have to make people feel they belong. Your energy sets the tone. So if you show up every single day at the office opens at 8:30, closes at 5, and if you show up at 8:35 and leave at 4:55, how do you think you set the energy in the office? Versus if you show up at 7:37, whatever the time frame is, and leave after everyone leaves. And I'm not saying work yourself to death. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you set an example. Be there early, and your agents will follow that example, right? And your consistency sets the
Mhm.
standard. So many times we get dragged in so many directions, and yet if you stay consistent with one thing, that sets the standard. And your personal belief builds the community, right? Because again, that's the energy you create. So strategy number one, activate your ALC. We've already talked a little bit about it, but how do you activate it? They do a lot, but how do we get our ALC to do a lot? And I want you all to think at the ALC like an ATM, right? It's an ATM. Deposit, 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 withdraw. And I remember, what would it look like if you went to the ALC and say this? I'm here to make sure that your business grows tremendously this year. Thank you for serving. My goal as your team leader, my goal as your MCA, our goal as a market center is to provide so much value to you that you feel indebted to give back, right? But what does that look like, right? That at the end of when you go, and I know you remember, right? When you go to an ALC meeting and say, guys, I apologize. It looks like I haven't provided enough value to earn the right to receive referrals from you this month.
Yeah.
Is that a different approach than can I have 5 referrals today or whatever, right? There's so many ways to actually package that. But these are 5 ways to provide massive value to your ALC. Number one, you have to cast a compelling vision. And how can they contribute to that vision, right? The vision for the market centers that are not at $1 million in profitability is that. I mean, that is a compelling. Become a millionaire market center in profit share. The reason why we do that is because we follow the models, right? If we want to develop millionaires, we want to lead by example and cast that compelling vision for the market center.
Yes.
Weekly masterminds, right? Led by the TL every single week. By the way, these are sacred. 30 minutes a week, spending time with your ALC, 30 minutes, not longer. And Gary said this, become a facilitator of intelligence, right? You have to build that community in which the ALC helps each other, right? And it's not you coming to providing the content, it's you coming to ask questions and facilitate an environment where people solve problems and challenges and raise the lid, right? Um, the weekly masterminds actually have shifted the whole energy in the ALC, right? And I know Henry's doing an amazing job hosting those, and there's several other market centers that are doing those, and it's 30 minutes, which is sacred. In those 30 minutes a week, you never discuss market center issues.
No.
It's simply to pour into that. Then monthly one-on-one consulting meetings on a monthly basis, the team leader, and by the way, this is providing massive value to the ALC. The reality out there in the field is ALC reschedules, things happen. If I'm not in the office that day, we don't reschedule, we just skip it. If you stay consistent with it, on a monthly basis, it will create that, it will activate your ALC. Then business intelligence, right? Multi-year trends and P&L deep dives. And Lynn, you are taking a deep dive into the P&L. Share a little bit about it.
Well, what we do every month, well, at the beginning of the year, we let them choose which month they would like to present. So before they present, they send the P&L, they send everything about their business, their multi-year trends. I look through the P&L. Henry usually looks through the multi-year trends. We kind of compare what we're looking at. And then we really let them tell us in the meeting first how they think their business is doing. Go through their P&L, give us highlights of their multi-year trend, and then the entire ALC, Henry and I discuss a little bit with them what they could do more of, what they could do less of. And then the rest of the ALC jumps in and it really helps the person, we call it in the hot seat that might
Mm-hmm.
really deep dive into their business. And with the collaboration between that high level group talking to each other about their businesses, what kind of value does that give them? It is
Mm,
huge. It's not just about Henry and myself looking at their multi-year trends and their P&Ls. It's people, their peers that are really pouring into them. And so we have like mini coaching sessions in ALC around P&Ls and their multi-year trends. Okay, well, you only hit, and it's not putting anybody down. It is like a coaching session. And it's actually really cool to watch.
mm. That's
It
very
really is.
powerful. Very powerful. And then the sixth thing is actually the fifth, exclusive ALC guest speakers, right? Providing, so you always have guys guest speakers in the market centers. This is for everybody, right? What would it look like if that guest speaker would take your ALC to dinner the night before the event, right? Just the ALC. It would be a
Yep.
tremendous value. And then the annual ALC retreat. And we as a group, I mean, Andy and Leslie do such a great job with raising the lid and setting up the year in the annual ALC retreat and then the annual ALC retreat for the market center. So these are 6 ways to provide massive value to your ALC so that you can actually activate them to co-lead with you. The second strategy is empowering your top 20%, right? Your top 20% wants influence and you have to give it to them, right? They teach classes, they host masterminds, they mentor new agents, they co-lead events with leadership, they serve as culture ambassador, and they own a specialty pillar like luxury, commercial, social media, new construction, investors, bilingual. So I do want to highlight just a couple of things. Uh, Agents, the best way agents learn is from each other. And actually, one of our mega agents said that. So, and this practice has been implemented in several market centers and it's working. This is a practice that works at a very high level. So, how do you give the top 20% influence, right? First of all, you highlight based on production, obviously, you highlight them in a team meeting. They have a superpower. Let's say someone is doing an amazing job creating traffic at their open houses, but they're probably not a $20 million producer. But every single open house, they might be $5 million producer, but every single open house that they are hosting is getting 20 plus attendees in a market where two, three, four, five is the norm, right? You want to highlight them for that, right? So you literally give them an environment where they can develop and shine, right? So let's talk a little bit about the rituals, right, that create identity, right? Because again, we said engagement is identity, right? This would be the third strategy. So there are some rhythms, there are some rituals, and that we provide for agents that are working at a high level. Number one is daily mastering the market of the moment mastermind. By the way, the consistency, we just talked about consistency, the consistency that an event like that brings. Imagine if an agent would implement the same consistency in anything in their business, right? So this call, this idea is not an original idea. It actually started in during COVID, where all market centers in the country started to have like a 30 minutes huddle virtually, right?
Mhm.
And we, like everybody else, did the same. And then guess what happened? We started getting busy and we dropped it, right? Until Mother's Day weekend of 2022, when we noticed that that specific weekend, um, people started to not show up at open houses anymore so much, right? And agents had, shifts happen slowly and then suddenly. And I remember vividly that weekend when we said, okay, we're gonna have we had agents having 20, 30 people attending open houses. We had agents when nobody attending open houses. So we said, okay, we're gonna do a mastering the market of the moment mastermind where we cover daily numbers, we cover what works, what doesn't work. We cover obstacles, successes, and it's a 30 minutes meeting that helps the agents start the day. We've been doing this ever since.
Yeah.
And we have every single morning around 100 agents hopping on this call that start their day on a high note. The second one, powerful training calendar, daily for new agents, weekly for cappers, and monthly for megas. Tell us a little bit, because you guys have such a powerful training calendar. What does that look like, Lynn? What would you say are some events on the calendar that are having such a huge impact? And how do you measure which ones are the ones?
Oh, wow. Haley does such a wonderful job. What we originally did, though, Leslie and Andy really had a vision of having a um, calendar that was kind of across the board, if you will. We wanted each market center to be getting the same quality and high quality of training. So I know that Leslie put a lot of time and effort in with the baseline of a calendar, what it looks like to make sure that new agents are getting what they need, our middle agents are receiving that attention and that training they need, and of course our top 20%. And that calendar has probably some of the most powerful classes on repeat. We have repeat classes, the bases, just the basics that everybody needs, whether you've been in the business for 15 years or 2 months. Anybody can go to those classes. And we do not tell our agents we want them to go to up classes. And so we encourage them, of course, go to your basic classes, but if there's something that interests you, farming or something that you've never done and you want to learn it at a high level, go to those classes. But the training calendar really sets off it just it goes across the board to all agents. It's got some powerful classes in it, but the repeat classes, like Loredana, I know you remember, are 8 to greats. So
Mm-hmm.
we've kind of taken those and incorporated those in repeating classes, and so they're always available for agents, new or experienced.
That's pretty powerful. By the way, guys, we can talk. Every single one of these rituals can be a separate class, right? So we're just gonna cover a little bit. The point is if you start, you create the vision, and then you can go granular in it, right? You
Yes.
think about what will I implement from these rituals. Then production-based masterminds, like based on different level of production. By the way, you can have ALC members lead those production masterminds, developing millionaire programs, right? You guys know, by the way, this is our Bible. Developing millionaires, honestly, I believe that as leaders is our job. But if we simplify it to that level, it's our job, right? Weekly powerful team meetings, and we just talked about what makes a powerful team meeting is I remember our ALC members used to say our team meetings are like a mini family reunion because it's always pulling specific things that work in that moment from agents, right? You highlight an agent, exactly what they do that works, and you interview them. I mean, Gary models team meetings for us. And I know Henry does a great job of doing that.
Mhm.
And then the MREA club, right? Making sure that you develop millionaires, but once they reach that level, the MREA club, do you have events for them? You have to make sure that they find value as well. Strategy number 4 is creating visibility and recognition. For example, for MREA status, right? When an agent reaches MREA status, celebrations, make it special, make it unique. The second one is sign project, right? It was, do you know what's interesting? What I admire most about North Atlanta is this, and it started with like 2016 with Aubrey. Then I passed on, he passed on the baton to me, and then I passed on the baton to Henry. And what I love about it is all these ideas, and I'm going to do air quotes, stayed in place as a consistent strategy. So this is probably not something new, but how many market centers would you say in the country are actually constantly keeping these rhythms of the sign project up one, recognizing, like placing a physical sign in the agent's yard during Thanksgiving because it is strategic holiday season, right? In the agent's yard, and make sure that they actually elevates them, right? So if you have a top 1% producer and you place a top 20% sign, how would they feel? They
Yeah.
would pull it out. And we had to learn, right? Initially, we just did top 20%. But regardless of how we scaled, that that strategy stayed in place because you create visibility and recognition, and it creates this momentum on social media. Then
Mhm.
halftime social media recognition. So once a year, physical sign project, right? Putting the signs, and then halftime every single June, the same type of recognition, but on social media, right? And you post congratulations to John Smith for reaching top 1%, and you tag John Smith, right? Cappers, right? Create visibility for cappers, like, and loyalty.
Yes.
Um, let's talk a little bit about strategy number 5, building micro communities. And I think small communities lead to big growth, right? Niche masterminds, which is, let's say, creating a mastermind around farming, specialty communities, right? A luxury mastermind, a commercial, land, relocation, all of these communities, and we have so much support from KWRI on that. Then cultural committees, right? We have having a chair for the cultural committee that rallies the whole market center around culture is so important. And then wealth building communities. Strategy number 6 is establishing a culture of contribution. Um, it's interesting, and I know I'm going to ask you, Lynn, because everybody comes up with an idea. So when we establish this habit of, if you have a problem, you need to come with a solution as well. If you have an idea, you need to come up with a plan.
With the
And
plan.
right, and an implementation plan. Because guess what? Do you know John Maxwell? I attended one of his events, and he said, well, when someone comes to you and says, I have an idea, we should do this. I have an idea. The response should be, does it work? I don't know. I haven't tried it. How can I support you in implementing it and making sure that this idea actually turns into a proven model? And if you look at challenges accompanied by solutions, ideas accompanied by implementation plans. And our role as leaders is teaching people how to think. Uh, One of the examples that come to mind in this is when we were developing the training calendar. And I remember one of our ALC members, Susan Lombardo, was the chair of the productivity committee, right? And the training calendar was her baby. She came and she said, look, the Market Center already does all, we already have a lot of things in place. But what I feel we're missing is the middle.
Hmm.
And she again, and she said, I have an idea. We used to do these red group and black group masterminds, and we stopped doing them. And I have an idea to bring them back. And she started to lead those, and she led those for how many years, Lynn?
Oh, wow. Four, 3 or 4.
Four
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. And she put the purple, remember the purple one?
Mm-hmm.
And that was our middle people that really needed more attention. They were right at the cusp. They needed some love. And when she implemented that one, that's the one that I think made the biggest impact. Purple and red. Those made the impact with the agents. The 20% were in the black group. They were a high level, but it was so wonderful to watch. We do them all on the same day, right behind each other. And so the people in the purple group were like, I got to get in that red group. How can I get in the red group? And it just kept building the momentum for them to get into production and to get the business. They were challenging themselves in those groups to move to the next level. Come on, we're all
Does
going to move to the
leadership,
next level.
yes, does leadership
Mhm.
attend those events?
No.
And that's the point. So the point is when an agent comes to you and says, I have an idea, they come with the idea, they come with a plan, then your questions are who can lead this? Who wants to champion this initiative? Or whose turn is it to step
Yeah.
up? Okay. Strategy number seven, leading through vision and on authenticity, right? And what the reality is, a leader's authenticity unlocks community trust. You have to be transparent, set clear expectations. You have to have alignment with the vision, sharing wins and lessons, and modeling real connection. Do you know what's interesting? And it takes some time until you build that culture. But I remember when I became a team leader, I never sold 1 million in real estate. Yes, I built businesses, I sold businesses, but I haven't sold $1 million in commissions in real estate. And my passion was to develop millionaires. So what was that? How did that sound? Right? So with transparency, I went to the ALC and I said, guys, I am not back. This was back then, right? I'm not the person to help you with the conversation practice. We have people that will help you will help you developing the skills. My superpower is understanding business, and my goal is to help you build businesses worth having. However, together we will develop each other's skills and elevate the technical skills to help you take more listings, convert more sellers into closings, and do all those things. And I was very transparent. And it unlocked the trust. And they leaned into me becoming the consultant, the coach to help develop their business, right? And I would say that's the transparency, right? Clear expectations, setting clear expectations, vision alignment, and Henry does such a good job. And again, there's so many leaders out there that do such a great job to create that vision alignment. Sharing wins and lessons, right? Sometimes we just share wins, and yet there's success doesn't teach you a lot,
No.
right? Failure does. Strategy number eight, community through communication. The point is it's connection, consistent and intentional communication. And I want you to touch a little bit on the personalized touch points, the surprise recognition, the culture updates, and new agent introductions and ALC highlights. How does this show up in the number one market center in profitability?
Well, we've always had a system in place, and I say always. You and I had to develop one years ago. Aubrey did a great job, but after COVID, I think you and I really had to be intentional with the personalized touch points. We had, it was never get away from your welcome cards, never get away from your recognition when we have their first closings. I'll just give you an example. We have a newsletter that goes out every day. So the day before, anybody that capped, anybody that had their first closing, and I know a lot of market centers do this, but this makes such an impact. Anybody that has something that we can highlight and give them just that good feeling that the market center recognizes, the team's recognizing them. So anything good that's happened the day before goes on the newsletter at the very top the next morning, and it goes out to all of the agents. And in the past, it took a couple of months for it to catch on, but once it did, now everybody comes in. Oh, I heard such and such capped. Congratulations! It is such a huge value add. The surprise recognitions, same thing. We grab somebody that has a first closing and we do a little video, just a 30-second video with them. um, the new agent introductions, we send out new agent introductions every single week. Everybody gets to know who we hired. We're very transparent with that. We're excited about it. And we want the market center to know. We want the agents to know. And ALC highlights, we do that. We will take an ALC member, tell their story, let them have a little time with a video, send it out to the market center, put it on social media. And it makes such an impact because it's intentional. It's an intentional thing that we've done.
100%. These are so, by the way, guys, take notes because these are small touches that make a big difference, right? Um, the ninth strategy to build, to lead through culture is the events, right? Build momentum through events. And by the way, these are like portraits and prosecco, right? Where once a quarter, right? You can hire a photographer and they take headshots for free for
Mm-hmm.
agents. Cappers lunch, holiday smiles. Tell us a little bit about the holiday smiles because that's a huge. It adds a huge value to the agent because it's a lead generation for agents event.
Mm-hmm. So what we do, we kind of swapped it up a little bit this year. It's still holiday smiles, but it was cookies and Santa this year, and we just tweaked the name a little bit. And so the agents all get together and they invite their clients, their past clients, their future clients, anybody in their database. And we have, like I said, this year it was pictures. It was pictures with Santa, and it was cookie decorating. And we had, it was just last week, this past weekend, actually. And we had a wonderful, huge turnout. And it is an event for the agents to reconnect with their past clients, some clients that they may have not seen in 6 months, and they're bringing their friends from their neighborhood to this event. It has become probably one of our biggest events, and it's only been in place for, I think this is the third year. The fall festival used to be the hugest event. I think Holiday Smiles is taking it over.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. That Millionaire Mixer is just a different name for happy hour, but it's more attractive. Annual Black Tie Holiday Party and Annual Black Tie Awards Gala. It has to stand out, right, to create that. And strategy number 10, and the last one is establishing a community scorecard. Because guess what, guys? What gets measured grows. So you have to track top 20% participation,
Yeah.
events attendance, ALC involvement, and retention. So, to simplify it, and I love how this is simplified. Your market center culture has two pillars, love and value. What are your love events and what are your value events? What are your love touches? What are your value touches? Everything can be summarized in these two things, love and value. So, what's one strategy, guys? I'm gonna stop share for a minute, but what's one strategy that you will implement to strengthen the culture in your community from what you've heard? I hope you took some notes or some ideas.
more
Robin,
more meaningful events. We had a top 20% mastermind yesterday, followed by a holiday toast. And I the amazing feedback, and it was just very intentional. We had more people. ALC, they said try to get half your roster in. And I didn't quite get half, but I got 60 people in the office. So that was big from 162.
that's amazing. That is
Really
amazing.
exciting.
That's amazing. Anybody else? What's one strategy you will implement in the next 30 days?
I think for me, my biggest takeaway was how you were activating your ALC. So as we're planning for our ALC retreat, how are we creating leaders in that conversation? Because as you mentioned, the agents are going to go to them first. And so how
Mhm.
are we preparing them for those conversations in talking about, hey, you have a problem, bring me a solution? How, because I think we sometimes just assume the ALC members because of where they are, they know how to have those conversations, but a lot of them don't. Like we have to teach them how to go and do that. And so I think that's really great talking points for our ALC retreat as we're going to launch our next set
Love
of
it.
people.
Love
That's
it.
awesome,
Great.
Dayan. That's amazing. Anybody else?
I was just gonna say
Hi.
I agree with the
Hi. Oh,
ALC.
sorry.
Hey,
Oh,
Lindsay.
sorry.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Lindsay.
Hello. I just was gonna agree with the ALC. I think this just reiterates that they're the ones that really are going to drive the culture of the market
Mhm.
center, and their engagement has to stay not only in January and February, but throughout the entire year. And they're just going to represent the culture that the other agents need to follow in.
I love that, Lindsay. And what's interesting is starts with giving first. We have to earn the right to ask. It's give, 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 receive. Give, 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 like three gives, one receive, three
Mhm.
gives, one receive. Not necessarily to keep score, and yet to make sure that giving outpaces the receiving, right? Um, I have one more thing to tell you guys. MAPS coaching. That MAPS coaching changed my life and my professional and personal life. If you are not in MAPS, just scan this QR code and schedule a discovery conversation with one of our business consultants. If you know of any market centers that are struggling or they just want to elevate the level that they're at and want to grow the market center and they're not in maps, send them the link or just let
Mhm.
us know and we're going to reach out to them. Make sure that, again, together, everyone achieves more. Everyone achieves more. Thank you so much. It's been
Thank you.
so good to spend the last 55 minutes with you all. We appreciate you being here. Wish you happy holidays. And by the way, these calls, all of the calls are recorded, and you will be able to go back and watch the recordings on the MAPS website. Thank you all. Happy
Thank you.
holidays.